Today we're going to begin graphing linear equations. At the end of this video, you should be able to graph an equation using a table of values and identify y-intercepts on a graph. We are going to start by finding the value of y by plugging in for x or substituting for x. So we're given this equation, y equals 2x minus 4. The first value that we are going to substitute for x is going to be 1. So right here, x equals 1. So we are going to substitute 1 for x. So y equals 2. Instead of x, we're writing 1 minus 4. So now we're just going to use our order of operations and solve for y. So y equals, I'm going to rewrite it, 2 times 1 is 2 minus 4. One more step, y equals, and then 2 minus 4 is negative 2. So your answer is y equals negative 2. Now we're going to try it with x equals 0. So when x equals 0, we're going to find out what y would be. So 2 times 0 is 0 minus 4. One more step, y equals 0 minus 4 is negative 4. So that means when x equals 0, y is negative 4. All right, last one, x equals negative 1. So we are going to find the value of y when x equals negative 1. So y equals 2 times negative 1 minus 4. Notice how each step I'm keeping my y equals there. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, and then minus 4. One more step. So negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. So that means when x equals negative 1, y equals negative 6. The important steps to graph an equation. The first step would be to make a table of values. Select at least 3 x values, 1 positive, 1 negative. Plug x's into equation and solve for y. Plot ordered pairs on coordinate plane. Connect points to form the graph of the equation. We are going to follow those same steps to graph this equation. Y equals 3x minus 1. So I always like to start with negative 1. And so we're going to plug in y, or negative 1. We're going to substitute negative 1 for x. So y equals 3 times negative 1 minus 1. So we have y equals negative 3. So 3 times 1 is negative 3 minus 1. So take another step. We have y equals negative 4 because negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. So that means when x equals negative 1, y equals negative 4. All right, next number that is a good number to choose, or a value for x, would be 0. So when x equals 0, we're going to find out what y is. So 3 times 0 minus 1. Y equals 3 times 0 is 0 minus 1. So that would be 0 minus 1, y equals negative 1. So for this equation, when x equals 0, y equals negative 1. And then we're going to pick a third value, which I'm going to use positive 1. So when 3 times 1 minus 1, we have y equals 3 minus 1, which equals 2. So that means when x equals 1, y equals 2. So now we are going to plot these points. All of these are ordered pairs now. So we have our x is -1 and our y is -4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So our first ordered pair would be there. And then 0, -1 would go here. And then 1, 2, so to the right 1 and up 1, 2. And now I'm going to connect the dots. If you can, I would use a ruler so your line is straight. And then this part down here says use the graph to determine the y-intercept. The y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. And on this graph, it's not labeled. So our y is up and down, x is left and right. So this line is crossing the y-axis right here at that pink dot, which is -1. And you could also use this table to tell you that. If x is 0, that means it's crossing the y-axis at that number, the value of y, if x is 0. Okay, so now we're going to graph the equation y equals 2x minus 3. Again, I'm going to pick 3 values for x. I'll start with -1 and plug in -1 for x, or substitute. So we have y equals 2 times -1, which is -2 minus 3. And then y equals -2 minus 3 is -5. So that means when x equals -1, y equals -5. All right, just like last time, my next y value or x value that I'm going to choose is 0. So when x equals 0, we're going to find out what y would equal. So 2 times 0 is 0 minus 3, and y equals 0 minus 3 is -3. On our last value is going to be +1, so y equals 2 times 1 minus 3. 2 times 1 is 2 minus 3. 2 minus 3 is -1. So that means when x equals 1, y equals -1, and I'm going to plot those points. So +1, -1 will go here. -1, -5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 0, -3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And then you draw your line, connect your dots. And this is the so this line is this equation, and then every point on this line is an ordered pair or a solution to this equation up here. And just like we were last time, we're going to determine the y-intercept, which is where it crosses the y-axis. So here we are at this blue spot where it crosses the y-axis, which goes up and down, and it crosses right here at -3. So the y-intercept is -3, and I could look at my table over here because x is 0, that is the y-intercept because we didn't move left or right. So I'm going to remind you, crosses y-axis. At this point, if you feel like you need to see another example problem, then you can stay and watch this one. If you feel like you are ready for a practice, then you can go to Class Kick, and there will be an assignment in Class Kick called graphing from a table, and you can start that practice assignment now if you feel that you are ready. But we are going to go on and graph the equation y equals negative 4x plus 5. And again, I'm going to use my same three values. You can choose any ones you want, any values for x, but I just have always done, since I was in school, actually 7th or 8th grade, I always just did -1, 0, and 1. So you can always do those, or you could choose any other values. But I'm going to start with -1, and I'm going to substitute for x, so -4 times -1 plus 5. And it's good to show your work just in case you make a mistake and you can go back to it. So y equals -4 times -1 is +4 plus 5, which equals +9. So we have -1, +9. And actually, I think I am going to plot this one right away. So -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, it's at the very top. All right. And then the next value is going to be 0. So y equals -4 times 0 plus 5. So y equals, and -4 times 0 is 0 plus 5. Y equals, and 0 plus 5 is 5. So that means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then my last is going to be -1. So y equals -4. Oh, not -1. Whoops. Just +1. So 4 times 1 plus 5. So -4 times 1 is -4 plus 5. And that means y equals +1. So 1, 1 would go here. So I have my ordered pairs. And I am going to then connect the dots with my line. And it crosses for the y-intercept. I skipped this one, but I'll go back. For the y-intercept, it crosses right here. And I can look at my ordered pair because x is 0. Our y-intercept is whatever that value is. So in this case, it's 5. So y-intercept is 5. And then here it says name some solutions to this linear equation. Well, all of these are solutions. So -1, 9 would be a solution. 0, 5 would be a solution. And 1, 1 would be a solution. And it goes on forever. So any ordered pair that falls on this line, my line's not that accurate, so I'm not going to try and pick one because I would much rather do it on paper and use a ruler, and then I could do it. But any other of these ordered pairs that falls on this line up here would be a solution.